Yeah, there are a lot of complicated factors here in the last 3 months. Of course, it's been an unusual time for the country, not least a slowdown in economic activity in September, driven by the consequences of the death of a monarch. Of course, that bank holiday that we saw in September is estimated to have reduced economic activity by 0.3%, half of the reduction across the entire month. And of course, we're looking at this 3 month period in the round, the United Kingdom reducing its economic output by 0.3%. This looks like we are on course for getting on for 2 quarters of negative economic growth. So over the next 3 months, it's expected we'll see a similar contraction, and that will officially put this country into recession. Of course, there are other countries around the world who have already got to that point. The United States has been in recession for quite some time, and we're seeing similar levels of inflation in continental Europe. Ultimately, the entire Western world is facing a very, very tricky economic set of circumstances right now. The aftershocks of COVID, of course, but also that war in Ukraine pushing up prices, particularly in Western Europe, energy prices, and that's having so many different knock-on effects to the wider economy.
Interesting to note, Tom, that the Chancellor has decided to do this interview this morning. Obviously, the figures come out at 7, but it seems to be his modus operandi, doesn't it? To get out early, get his economic message out. We saw this pretty much as soon as he got in the job. Within 3 days, he'd sort of overturned everything, but he did it first thing on a Monday morning. I suppose this is all sort of a hangover from the trust times when the markets really reacted quite badly. He's very clear, isn't he, Tom? He wants to signal the mood and the position of the government in all of this.
He does. He wants to get out there before those markets make their big decisions. This is a government that really wants to emphasise how sort of steady they want to be, hand on the tiller, not making any big seismic changes. Now, in terms of economic confidence, that's a reasonable strategy. It means that there aren't going to be any big surprises, that the pound is relatively strong compared to recent history against the dollar, 123 this morning. And yet, it also means politically there are some challenges, because the Conservative Party sits 20 points behind the Labour Party in the polls. If it is going for this slowly, steady strategy, there isn't going to be that big impetus that may well change that polling position. Speaking to some people in number 10, it does seem that the strategy from this government is this year, steady the ship, make sure that there is no big sort of change in circumstances, but then potentially next year start to push forward a bit more of a reform agenda. Perhaps we may see some more Trussian elements of reform. Of course, on Friday we saw the Edinburgh reforms come in to liberalise our financial markets here in the United Kingdom, and there may well be more elements of that sort of supply-side reform coming about, but not right now. Clearly the emphasis of Rishi Sunak is stability, but there are those that are within his party pressuring him to think perhaps stability when the party is 20 points behind in the polls isn't going to be the wisest decision if that's all that this government is about. There are many people in the Conservative Party who are willing the Prime Minister to present some sort of positive vision looking to the future. And indeed, Lord Cruddas organised a letter of a number of MPs over the weekend that was talking about bringing down the tax burden. There's a lot of internal pressure within the Conservative Party to see more than just stability.